The phone rang twice before I picked up.
Hello.
Hi, Alice. It's me.
Hi, sis.
I'll be there tomorrow afternoon. That was Irene. She never asked if it was convenient. She informed. Technically, the apartment was hers now. All of them were. The entire building had once been my inheritance after Dad died, but Irene had inherited better advice and better timing. A few reckless decisions on my part, a handful of desperate sales to cover debts, and little by little the property transferred into her name. When the dust settled, I owed nothing and owed more than I could repay. She cleared most of my liabilities and allowed me to stay in one of the smallest units. In exchange, I handled maintenance, errands, and whatever favor she required when she visited her wealthy tenants and friends. She even paid me a modest wage, which somehow made it feel both generous and humiliating at the same time. Whenever she came to town, I surrendered the bedroom. She took over the closet, the drawers, everything while I relocated to the couch. I expected the same routine this time. I was wrong. The first surprise was the young woman stepping out of the car behind her. You remember Na? Irene said smoothly. She's touring colleges. Well, stay a few days. The last time I'd seen her, she'd been a child with scraped knees and tangled hair. Now she stood poised, confident, barely sparing me a glance. Give Alice the key so he can grab the luggage, Irene instructed. I forced a smile.
Hi, Na.
She frowned. Why do you call him Alice, Mom? Because that's his name, sweetie. It's Ellis, I muttered. Pronounced Eli. Na shrugged. Whatever, Alice. She handed me the key after detaching the remote, so I could only open the trunk. The car was parked blocks away. It took 3 trips to haul everything upstairs. By the time I returned with the last suitcase, Irene was already surveying the kitchen. You'll make your salmon pasta, won't you? And you like salmon?
Sure.
Irene pressed money into my hand for good quality fish. I walked to the market, then farther still for fresh seafood. By the time I started cooking, sweat clung to my back. You should wear an apron, Irene remarked. I don't have one. There was one in that clothing box I gave you. I had shoved that box into the broom closet months ago, unopened. She fetched it herself and returned with a frilly apron trimmed in ruffles. These were Mother's, she said, tying the straps into a dramatic bow at my back. She'd be pleased they're being used. Na said nothing, but her expression said enough. Dinner wasn't the end of it. I had to run out again for her favorite drink, then again for dessert they decided on while I was gone. I reheated my own portion later and ate alone in the kitchen while they occupied the couch and television. When I finished washing dishes, Na appeared just long enough to drop their empty ice cream bowls into the sink without acknowledgement. They controlled the space entirely, the couch, the remote, even the conversation. When I tried to speak, they shushed me in unison. Later that evening, they called out from the living room to ask what breakfast options I had. Apparently, none were sufficient. Another trip to the store followed. By the time I returned with bags of groceries, I was exhausted. They had retired to the bedroom. I placed everything in the fridge and gathered a sheet and blanket from the broom closet where my displaced belongings were stacked. I laid out my makeshift bed on the couch and stripped down to my underwear, grateful for the summer heat. What do you think you're doing? Irene stood in the doorway in a silk negligee, arms crossed, going to sleep. Not like that. Put on pajamas. It's too hot, and I don't have any. You are not walking around half naked while Na is here. This isn't a discussion. I bit back the urge to argue and went to retrieve a t-shirt and sweatpants. Irene followed me to the closet. Before I could reach for my clothes, she pushed past and dug into the unopened box. Here, she said triumphantly, handing me a pink sweater and matching pants. One of my old sets. I knew they were in there. The top was soft, thick with elastic cuffs. Glitter letters across the chest spelled lady. You said you didn't have pajamas. Now you do. Too tired to resist, I changed. The fabric clung snugly at wrists and ankles. While I dressed, she filled a large glass with water and placed it on the counter.
Drink. I'm not thirsty.
You complained about the heat. I drank. She refilled it immediately. You're noisy. She continued. You woke us when you came back. It sounded like an elephant stomping around. She handed me the second glass and waited until I finished it.
Better, she said.
Now go to bed quietly. I returned to the couch and borrowed pink pajamas, glitter catching the light as I moved, careful not to let the floorboards creak beneath my steps. She refilled the glass again. One more, Irene said, just to be certain. I expect you to remain in bed until morning.
Nah.
And I will be up early. Set a silent alarm and have breakfast ready by 7.
And be quiet.
Before I could respond, she dug through the clothing box once more and pulled out a pair of soft pink ballet flats. Thin soles, satin bows at the toes. These will keep the noise down.
You'll wear them indoors from now on.
I slid them on and exaggerated a dainty tiptoe toward the couch. If that attitude continues, she added sharply, there will be consequences, Alice. I froze. You think I didn't notice the look you gave Mother's apron? Do you realize she's the one insisting we keep supporting you after all your history? Tomorrow you will write her a proper handwritten thank you. Be specific. Tell her how useful her lovely apron has been. Yes, sis. You'll wear the apron whenever you cook or clean, including the matching headband. Your hair is long enough to need it. He paused at the doorway. If you can't take this seriously, you might find yourself practicing those little steps on the way to a shelter. The bedroom door shut. I heard Na laugh softly from inside. That night was miserable. The pajamas were heavy and warm. The water Irene forced me to drink churned uncomfortably in my bladder. The bathroom could only be accessed through the bedroom, and I didn't dare disobey her order to stay put. I drifted in and out of shallow sleep, watching the clock. When my alarm vibrated at last, relief flooded me. I hurried toward the bedroom, barely thinking. The release was overwhelming. And then I woke up. Took a second for reality to settle in. The warmth wasn't relief. It was humiliation. I had wet myself. I must have made some sound because the bedroom door opened. Irene and Na stood there staring at me in the damn pink pajamas. Irene's face hardened instantly.
Shower.
No, I'll find something for you to wear.
Gross.
Na muttered. He walked through our bedroom. He'll clean everything. Irene replied firmly. Under the spray of the shower, dread settled in. My real clothes were hidden in the couch's storage compartment. They'd never think to look there. The bathroom door cracked open as I dried off. I couldn't find any of your things, Irene's voice called. This will have to do. A bundle dropped onto the floor. When I examined it, my stomach sank. A long pink button-down shirt and white cotton tights. I dressed quickly. The shirt fell almost to my knees. With the tights, it resembled a makeshift dress. I didn't care how absurd I looked. I just wanted coverage so I could retrieve proper clothes later. The ballet slippers waited outside the door. In the living room, I found Irene and Na wrapping the couch tightly in plastic film. The couch, the one containing all my clothes. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Breakfast, Irene said, pointing to the apron folded neatly on the counter. The thin bow-topped headband rested beside it. I remembered her warning. Silently, I tied on both. I cooked. I served. They finished encasing the couch in layers of plastic while I worked. Before I could even sit down, Na began complaining about the smell, about how the couch was contaminated, about how she couldn't relax with it there. Irene agreed it should be removed immediately, which meant I had to wrestle the fully wrapped couch out of the apartment. They remained seated, finishing breakfast, only assisting briefly to shove it through the doorway. I left it in the hallway, breathless. That's when Miss Brothers from upstairs approached. Good morning, I managed. She eyed me skeptically as she passed. Only then did I truly register my reflection in the hallway mirror. Long pink shirt cinched by a frilly apron, white tights, ballet slippers, bow perched in my hair. I hurried back inside before anyone else could see. I put the dishes in the sink. Na called, as if granting me a gift. By the time I reached the kitchen, my plate, my untouched breakfast, was gone. As I washed up, Na resumed her complaints about the bedroom floor, about the bathroom, about how she had slept in my bed, and what might have happened before. I tried to reassure her, but she wouldn't relent until Irene declared a full cleaning necessary. Living room floor scrubbed twice right up to the door. Bedroom floor, entire bathroom, tiles, shower, sink, fresh sheets, and bedding. The only small mercy was Irene's decision that the pajamas should be discarded. I sealed them in a trash bag and set it beside the wrapped couch in the hallway. When Irene left for groceries, Na stayed behind, monitoring. I'd hoped for a quick mop. Instead, I fetched a bucket and brush. She watched closely, making sure I moved furniture and scrubbed every inch. She perched on the bed, scrolling through her phone while I worked around her feet. When I finished, she insisted I move the bed entirely and clean underneath, then rotate the mattress, then strip the bedding and wash it after replacing it with fresh sheets. By the time I was done, my arms ached, my back throbbed, and the thin soles of the ballet slippers offered no comfort. Na barely looked up from her phone. "Make sure you don't miss anything," she said absently. And I didn't. I had hoped the bathroom would at least offer a little privacy. It didn't. "Keep the door open," Nain called from her spot on the bed. "I need to see you," so I scrubbed with the door wide, fully aware of her eyes drifting up from her phone every few seconds. A job that should have taken an hour stretched endlessly through the morning under her supervision. When Irene returned from shopping, Na finally abandoned her post to greet her. The moment they disappeared into the living room, I straightened up and exhaled. Instead of working the brush into the tiles, I wiped away the foam I just spread. Quick, efficient swipes with a damp cloth. No one would know unless they came back immediately. They didn't. Their conversation rolled on and on. Laughter mixed with the rustle of grocery bags. I kept the brush in hand, ready to perform if necessary, but mostly I just polished the surfaces enough to look convincing. By the time Irene peeked around the door frame and asked, "Finished yet?" I was leaning casually against the sink. "Yes, sis. All done."
Good.
"Make lunch." Relief washed over me. I hurried to the kitchen and began cooking, my stomach twisting painfully. I hadn't eaten all day. I plated their meals first, of course. Just as I reached for a plate for myself, Irene stopped me. "Start the dessert, the complicated one." Ness had a very stressful day. So, I whisked cream and stirred batter while they ate. Suddenly, Na's voice cut through the room. "Mom, he cheated." I turned. She was holding up her phone. On the screen, me lazily wiping down the bathroom tiles instead of scrubbing. She had left her phone propped on the bed. Camera aimed directly through the open doorway. Irene's expression darkened instantly. She crossed the room in 2 strides, seized me by the ear, and dragged me into the bedroom. "Stand there, arms out." From her drawer, she removed thin metal bangles, dozens of them, and slid several onto each of my wrists until they stacked halfway up my forearms. Back into the bathroom, I went. She pressed a toothbrush and a bar of soap into my hands. "Every tile on your knees, walls, floor, tub, sink, shower, toilet. I want those bracelets jingling constantly. No pauses. When you finish, you start again. You stop only when I say so. Or you walk out of this apartment. Do you understand?" "Yes, sis."
Good.
I dropped to my knees. The tiny toothbrush bit into my fingers as I worked. Soap stung my skin. The bangles chimed with every movement, a constant metallic reminder. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Na reposition her phone on the bed, angled perfectly. Hunger gnawed at me. My back burned, so I scrubbed. At some point, voices, male voices, floated in from the living room. I hesitated just a second to listen. The jingling stopped. "Keep going." Na's voice snapped from the doorway. So, I did. I finished the entire bathroom once, then again, starting with the floor, as instructed. When Irene finally returned to inspect, she ran her fingers along tiles, checked corners, examined the grout. "You're done when it's dry," she declared. So, I wiped every surface until it gleamed. Eventually, the apartment fell quiet except for distant giggling from the living room. Curious and aching, I stepped out and stopped. The old couch was gone. In its place sat a sleek black leather sofa, pristine and obviously expensive. Irene beamed. "Isn't it wonderful?" "It's new," I said carefully. "You can thank Nain." She made it clear she would never sit on the other one again. A long silence stretched until I realized they were waiting. "Thank you, Na." "Whatever, Alice." she muttered without looking up from her phone. The delivery team had left the couch oddly positioned far from the wall, leaving a large gap behind it. I guess I'll need to move it back between the cabinets, I said, already imagining the work. Oh no, Irene replied lightly. It's like that on purpose, she gestured behind it. Between the back of the couch and the wall, boxed in by the cabinets, sat an inflatable mattress. Narrow, enclosed, more like a compartment than a bed. We thought it best you don't sleep on the new couch, Irene explained smoothly. Just in case. The implication stung. Am I supposed to climb over it? I asked. Don't be ridiculous. They released the small roller brakes with the tips of their heels and pushed the couch forward, revealing the mattress fully. Irene handed me a fitted sheet. Make your bed. They watched as I knelt and stretched the sheet into place. As I adjusted it, I felt a raised, padded rim around the edges. Nas stifled a laugh. This goes on top, Irene said, offering another folded layer. I took it and froze. The texture was unmistakable. The top layer felt wrong the second my fingers brushed it. It wasn't cotton. It was rubber. Don't even think about arguing, Irene said evenly. You'll sleep on protective sheets until I'm convinced you can manage yourself. I swallowed whatever protest was rising and stretched the rubber cover over the mattress. Nas circled the space, snapping pictures as if documenting a home makeover. Well, Irene asked, how does it feel? I ran my palm over the slick surface. Rubbery, she rolled her eyes. Lie down. I lowered myself onto the narrow mattress. My head bumped one cabinet. My feet pressed into the other. It's small. You'll manage. Bend your knees, or curl up. As I adjusted awkwardly, they pushed the couch back into place. The rollers clicked. Darkness closed in from all sides. I couldn't see them anymore, only hear their muffled whispers and suppressed laughter. Then I heard a cabinet door open above my head. A faint click. I lifted myself slightly. Ding-dong. The sudden chime exploded inches from my ear. I flinched so hard I nearly hit my head again. Their laughter burst out immediately. Na kept filming. Perfect, Irene said, tapping her phone. I installed a little entry alert. Shops use them to signal customers walking in. In this case, it'll signal you walking out. She crouched near the cabinet and gestured toward a tiny drilled opening. It creates a beam just below the couch edge. Break it, and it sounds. It also notifies my phone. I can schedule it, control it remotely. You won't tamper with it. The casual way she explained it chilled me. And now, she continued brightly, there will be a few changes. Her tone shifted businesslike. We plan to stay a couple of days. Thanks to your pit performance, we missed today's appointments. We'll need new ones. I'll also be speaking to the tenants. Mrs. Brothers mentioned you rarely respond to her calls. That's not. She silenced me with a look. No arguing. You will do as instructed. The same obedience applies to Nain and to every tenant. If someone reports an issue, you attend the same day. Major problems resolved within 24 hours. You'll address them properly, sir. Ma'am, Mr. Mississippi. Understood? Yes, sis. Good. While we're here, you'll prepare breakfast daily, lunch, and dinner as needed. Handle groceries and laundry, full apartment cleaning every other day. I nodded, exhausted. For now, you are not to enter our bedroom or bathroom. You may clean them only with permission. Use the laundry sink for yourself. Hallway restrooms for anything else. And looked delighted. The alarm will run from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. pajamas and in bed before activation. You remain inside until it shuts off. Fit triggers consequences. Breakfast ready at 7. Understood. They climbed onto the new couch. Irene leaned over the edge with another package for nights. She said lightly. Since dryness seems difficult. The branding on the package made my stomach drop. Nain zoomed in on my face with her camera. Don't they look familiar? Irene asked. Grandmother had you wear these in high school when you had similar issues? Nain blinked. He wore those before. Oh yes, Irene replied. It was quite the battle to keep them on. Please, I muttered. She held up a hand. As long as you behave, that story stays between us. Consider it motivation. Na pouted slightly, but didn't argue.
Change.
Before I left, a sudden thought hit me. Can I at least get some of my clothes from the other couch? She looked at me strangely. The old one?
Yes.
I stored everything inside it.
Pause.
Oh, she said almost casually. I had the delivery men take it away. The air left my lungs. Maybe we can call. It's gone.
Don't bring it up again.
There are plenty of clothes here. He gestured at my current outfit. Now, hurry. Bed in 30 minutes. They rolled the couch forward to let me out. In the laundry room, I cleaned up as best I could at the sink. The items I'd been handed were bulky and unmistakable. I forced myself into them, then into the plastic outer layer that sealed tightly around my waist and legs. They felt enormous. When I stepped back into the living room, Irene smiled approvingly. Nod documented the moment. Adorable, Irene said, handing me a fresh set of pajamas, bright hot pink this time, glittering with a bold logo across the chest. I dressed. They guided me back into the narrow space and pushed the couch into position again, sealing me in. You're going to bed early, Irene explained. We're going out for dinner. You'll stay here. I didn't eat today, I said quietly. Oh, she smiled as if remembering a minor detail. Right. She passed something over the couch edge. It was a large bottle filled with a pale liquid capped with a rubber top. Na held her phone steady. It's nutritionally complete, Irene said. Everything you need. Childproof cap. Don't spill. You'll have to drink it properly. Before I could respond, she handed me a second bottle. Water. Finish both before we return. My hands trembled slightly as I held them. One more thing. She dropped a small pink oval into my palm. Your silent alarm. It'll vibrate in the morning after the system deactivates. We'll test placement until we're confident it wakes you. She tapped her phone. A soft electronic chirp confirmed the monitoring system was active. Na lowered the blinds. The lights clicked off. The apartment door shut. Their laughter faded down the hallway, leaving me alone in the dark. Boxed in by leather and cabinets, rubber beneath me, bottles in my hands, and a silent device waiting to pulse at dawn. After a long moment, I stared at the ceiling inches above my face. Then, with nothing else to do, I began to